got 1 minute.
Sure. Well, one of the things that I think about as a digital rights activist is I like looking back at history rather than looking too far forward or imagining what technology would look like in the future. I also think it's important to go back into the past and look at how people have discussed these issues in the past in other contexts, because that holds relevance today. And that's kind of the framing of my chapter. And I look at other democratic societies where they've organised public participation, where that's been, traditional norms have been shaken up, and there's a real enthusiasm for more grassroots versions of democracy.
So paid moderators is what you're talking about, people who are paid to moderate conversations.
Yeah, and I think there's a real role to play in giving that kind of moderation power, not to a large tech company like Facebook, for example, who has a small subset of people who do their moderation, or a large set who are paid almost nothing, so an underclass of people who do that moderation work. Instead, we need to be cultivating in our community people who are supported to do that kind of work, where it's treated as important and could be involved in community moderation with respect and, maybe even paying them as needed to create functional online spaces. Well-moderated spaces will attract people because people want to go to well-moderated spaces, but currently we're relying on Facebook to make the call as to what gets moderated with their obscure standards and, people based in Silicon Valley making decisions about context elsewhere with little local knowledge. That's the problem. So I think we need to cultivate a class of people who can do that work, be appropriately rewarded for it, and build a functional online community.
I've got the feeling, Peter Lewis, that you won't entirely agree with me, because it seems to be what's emerging from this conversation.
Oh no, on this I think we disagree on different points of government intervention, but I think we share a longer term vision that we need to have alternatives, and that the sense that a corporate entity should be controlling our public square is totally untenable.
Absolutely.
The straw man we won't get to talk about today is I think we need to reimagine the ABC as a much more ambitious
look at that.
space.
We've run out of time.
Another day.
It's convenient. We should just read the book. It is a fantastic book on this subject. It's called The Public Square Project, Reimagining Our Digital Future. Peter Lewis, founder of the Centre for Responsible Technology, and Lizzie O'Shea, chairs Digital Rights Watch. So much more in it than we got to. Go and get a copy and have a read of it. Thank you both. Conversations is next. I'm going to see you tomorrow. Good morning, Tony Matthews with ABC News. New South Wales Police have arrested a man following a breakthrough in an investigation into a series of historical sexual offences against women in Sydney. A force has been investigating 13 separate sexual assaults which occurred more than 15 years ago. The incidents were linked by location, linked by a common DNA profile located at the crime scenes. Despite assistance from the FBI and the investigation of more than 3,000 persons of interest, no one was charged over the incidents. A 51-year-old man has now been arrested and is expected to be charged with multiple offences. Australia's Chief Health Officer won't say whether he'll recommend tighter border restrictions in response to the latest COVID-19 variant. At this stage, non-Australian citizens who've been in South Africa or 8 surrounding nations are banned from coming here. Israel has gone one step further and is not allowing foreigners from any country to enter. Professor Paul Kelly says Australia is watching developments closely.
I spoke with a colleague at the Ministry of Health in Israel yesterday. That's a decision they've made. But most other countries in the world at the moment are concentrating on that place where we know there is virus circulating in probably quite large numbers in South Africa and the other nations that we're looking at.
The Deputy Prime Minister says he doesn't think Australians will accept nationwide lockdowns or further widespread border closures. Barnaby Joyce says the community needs to learn to live with COVID.
We can't just shut down every time there's a new variant, because there's going to be new variants. They're going to continue on, and the economy won't work, and society won't accept it if we just keep shutting the show down. So I think there will be a sort of a tempered favour approach to the assessment of what we do next.
The ACT has recorded 7 new cases of COVID-19 in the latest reporting period. There are 154 cases in the territory, while 97.7% of the population aged 12 and above is now fully vaccinated.
The federal government has moved to give telecommunication companies the power to block scam text messages at their source. Australians lost more than $87 million in phone and SMS scams this year, with double the number of reports than 2020. Scam text messages work by impersonating businesses or government agencies to either access personal information or install ransomware on a device. Communications Minister Paul Fletcher says the regulation changes will help stop that from happening.
What we again want to do is make sure the telcos have the power to use their technology to identify and block these texts before customers even realise they're there.
A truck driver accused of harbouring accused drug trafficker Mustafa Baluch will remain in custody over the Christmas holidays. Yavenko Kidnovsky was arrested on November the 10th near Grafton on the state's north coast, where his truck was intercepted by police hours after Mr. Baluch was arrested at the Queensland border. Mr. Kidnovsky's lawyer didn't apply for his bail during a brief mention of the proceedings at Grafton local court today. The Commonwealth Director of Public Prosecutions will be taking over the case, which will return to court on the 25th of January. A 46-year-old Canberra man has been extradited to New South Wales to face a murder charge over the deaths of a woman in Newcastle in June. Jonathan Gould reports.
Police set up strike force at back house after Stacey Klimovich was shot at point-blank range as she opened her front door. Last week, 29-year-old Stuart Daniel Campbell was arrested and charged with murder in Newcastle. Later, Australian Federal Police arrested Jason Hawkins in Canberra. Today, the ACT Magistrates Court handed him into the custody of New South Wales Police to appear in the Queanbeyan Court shortly.
The Sydney Roosters have re-signed Joseph Manu for a further 2 NRL seasons, keeping him at the club until at least the end of 2024. Considered one of the best centres in the sport, the 25-year-old made his debut with the club in 2016 and has played 114 games. The New Zealand international was a member of the Roosters' 2018 and 19 premiership-winning side. To the weather around the state, showers in central and northern parts, more likely about the northwest slopes and plains. The chance of a thunderstorm in the north, possibly severe, mostly dry in the west. Sydney's weather, a fine partly cloudy Monday, a maximum of 22 on the coast and 23 in the west. Right now, 21 degrees on the coast and it's 20 degrees in Penrith. ABC News, it's 11:05.
You've got to learn how to say it out loud.
Well, it's real defiance.
I felt an incredible calm.
And so,
Started to realize there's no going back. This bomb went off in my head. An unbelievable experience.
and if you don't have hope,
It does lead to madness.
because the truth is,
These things reflect us.
Conversations with Richard Feidler on ABC Radio.
John Grisham is the author of many, many best-selling novels that largely take place within the American legal system. His new book, called The Judge's List, is a suspense novel about a lawyer who investigates the complaints against a very highly regarded judge. And then the lawyer discovers the judge is actually a psychopath with a hit list of enemies. Before he took up writing, John Grisham was a trial lawyer and a member of the Mississippi State Legislature. And his books often expose the clubbiness of the legal system and the way that it can callously destroy the lives of innocent and powerless people.
And if they pay, it's no job, no pay for labour hire workers. And why is that significant? Why is that materially significant? Well, every speak I'd suggest to you it's pre-selection season. And whenever it's pre-selection season for those opposite, they need to come in here and beat their chests on behalf of the union movement, because of course the union movement has a disproportionate say in respect of who gets to sit on the benches in this place for the ALP. And thankfully, for more than 3/4 of the last 3 decades, they've sat on the opposition benches. But why is this significant? Well, it's significant because, of course, those opposite want to drive people on behalf of their union movements into the union movement itself. Now, haven't been very successful in recent times. What they should come in here and be honest about is their business model's failing. Because from 1992, we've seen a decline in union membership from 40% to 14.3% in
busy with their job at LRT, so I was like very a small child with a big responsibilities in the house, like taking care of all three of them, about their studies, about their behavior even. So I was cashier, I was chief advisor, as well as I was like peace ambassador in my house. But it made me very strong, it made me brave. As my father was a war journalist, he was always telling his stories. When he was talking about his experience in the war with Taliban, the dead bodies, and all these hard situations, I was like in love with this and impressed to practice this experience by my own as well. That was why I started learning cameras, editing films, and recording videos. That's when the sun's done, but
then Dad was doing a lot of breaking in there, so I don't have any memories of that. Dad came up to run Gunawanga study in Goldong when I was about 18 months old, and I moved to Mudgee. I think I moved to Mudgee when I was in year 2, so...
Right.
Really a Mudgee boy, yeah.
So you even though you're on the birth certificate it says Paddington, your memories come from Mudgee. What was it like growing up in Mudgee back then?
Oh, excellent, mate. Yeah, it's a beautiful place. I've got, all my best mates are there. My sister and my mum are still there, so my closest family. And Liz's parents are there, my wife's parents. So, I haven't had much time to go back there lately, but it's funny because they say that absence makes the heart grow fonder, and it's very true because I miss the place a lot.
What about growing up as a kid, mate, and growing up with, obviously, Max, and we'll talk about Max a little bit later on, but your first sort of memories of the horse, obviously, it would have always been around you.
Well, I'll be brutally honest with you. I actually didn't like horses at all, and particularly racing, because, growing up, when you got mum and dad who work in racing, quite often if they were ever having a problem, it was sort of horse-related. So myself and my sister never really took to it until we got a bit older. But
helped to accept everyone. It's grossly unfair that in Australia today there are workers doing the same job as other employees in the same big companies who are paid up to $500 less a week and do not have the same rights as the workers standing right next to them, alongside them in the workplace. These workers have the same skills, the same experience, and work the same hours. The only difference is that they are employed through labour hire contracts instead of employed directly by the company. Labour will not stand for this exploitation, which undermines our wage structure and the ability of a worker to earn a decent wage, put food on the table, pay for the school shoes, and get ahead in life. We've worked hard for decent wages and conditions, rights that have been fought for generations and are being eroded by the Morrison government.
Thanks for
All
watching.
workers should have fair wages for
I'm
work
going
of equal
somewhere
value,
special.
equal opportunities to be promoted, and holidays with pay,
I'll
as well as
continue the live
pay for
stream
public
there.
holidays. Under this amendment, those workers
We're not
employed by
far.
a labour hire company will be treated equal to workers they work alongside who perform exactly the same duties. This bill is about protecting the human rights of workers. While most labour hire and host companies do the right thing, we've seen labour hire being used by large companies to cut costs and increase profits. The Fair Work Act in its current form allows big companies to avoid legitimate regulatory standards that undermine workers' rights. The objective of this amendment is to protect all workers. It will benefit workers in the meat processing industry, construction, coal mining, maritime industry, and the retail and hospitality sectors. Currently, as I said earlier, many workers in these industries employed by labour hire firms are being paid up to $500 less a week. These workers don't get paid if they're sick or if their children are sick, and they don't get paid
Serve until they die, and that's not good. There needs to be some kind of term limit, to get these people off the course. And there's several thousand federal judges across the
wins and claiming a record 21st Grand Slam title at the Australian Open. His father has suggested the world number one probably won't compete at the Australian tournament in January due to a mandatory vaccination policy akin to, he says, blackmail. Quote, of course, he wouldn't want to go with all his heart because he is a sportsman and there are a lot of our people, the Serbians, there who would be delighted to see Novak. But I really don't know if that will happen. Probably not under these conditions with this blackmail and when it's done that way. When it's done that way? Really? He's been well aware of the rules around it, and then it was confirmed last week, if not the week before, by the Victorian government and also Tennis Australia. I actually spoke to Craig Tiley, the tournament director on Wide World of Sports last week, and he said, look, of course we want to see Novak Djokovic here in Australia, but like the government officials and like the health officials, we have a responsibility to the health and safety of everyone going to Melbourne Park. And I've said the same thing about the NRL and the ARL Commission. I don't understand why they would go down the path of saying, well, okay, you need to be double vaxxed to sit in the stands to watch the football, yet we're not going to make it mandatory for the footballers. So thankfully the Australian Open and Tennis Australia have done that. They said, well, if the supporters, the tennis fans, need to be vaccinated, if they need to sit in the Rod Laver Arena grandstand to watch the tennis, well, the tennis players need to be vaccinated as well. So I am fully on board with Tennis Australia's stance and also the Victoria government. And to be honest, I think Novak Djokovic has lost a lot of support with his carry-on throughout this pandemic. Let's not forget he threw that party, and that's where COVID spread. And now he wants to kick up a stink, so to his father, because he has to be vaccinated to play the Australian Open. As far as I'm concerned, if he doesn't want to get vaccinated, I couldn't care less if he plays the Australian Open. 131873, 2gb.com, 4bc.com.au, where you click onto the feedback icon. Julie says, Levy, what you said then about having a pig on a spit, I thought that's a bit harsh to treat your great mate Piggy Riddell from the Continuous Call team. No, I think Piggy, although Piggy's fattened up at Kembla Grange the other week. He's put on some beef, old Piggy. The off-season's been nice to him. Sorry, Piggy. Glass houses, I know, I'm a big unit as well. But anyway, he's doing well. 131873, 2gb.com, 4bc.com.au, and you can text me, 0460 873 873. Let's go to Jamie. Jamie's in Townsville. Morning, Jamie.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
That's great.
What have you got for us, Jamie? What would you like to say?
Well, I suppose I'm sort of at the mercy of two trigger-happy premiers, McGowan and Palaszczuk. I have a little miracle nephew that was born during the pandemic, and he's nearly 2 in January, and I haven't been able to go.
Sorry, I can't see the messages, but I know someone's there.
Quarantined at either end on a whim or a decision. And yeah, I
got
just
stuck in the shit lane.
Dealing with this as one country.
That's a right turn, mate. And now I've got to make another right turn.
Yeah, I've just lost the words really.
It's upsetting, but it's also frustrating, isn't it? And I think that's where you're sort of going, because you do the right thing, and then you've got these state leaders who want to just play games, it seems, with people's lives. And at a time, given that we've been going through this for 2 years, you desperately want to give your nephew, you desperately want to give your loved ones a hug this Christmas, and you just desperately want to see them, because as much as it's okay to look at Zoom and FaceTime and everything else, there's nothing better than a hug from Mum. I can certainly say that from experience, because I can't wait to give Mum a hug at Christmas. But, it's all reliant on state premiers like Premier Palaszczuk and Premier McGowan to start dealing with this like the other states, because, as much as they think they're doing the right thing, I think the mental health of a lot of people in these states has been toyed with because of the decisions they've made. I think it sounds like you agree, Joe.
Oh, absolutely. And look, I've got a FIFO husband and 2 young boys, and I just can't run the risk of being caught at either end. I can't even rip over for a weekend because I just don't know what will happen at either side. And I can appreciate that WA is a bit of an engine room of the nation, but I think it's just time that we need to.
Excuse me. On the sign it says Sydney Zoo. I'm not going to go to Sydney Zoo today. I'm going to go to a park that's near here. But I will go to Sydney Zoo and film there very soon.
run the risk of.
I just want the weather to be a bit nicer. I don't trust. I think it's,
And that's the reason
well,
why,
maybe it's not
Jamie,
going to
that,
rain
you know, I've been quite
during
vocal
the
about it
day,
this morning,
but
and Chris O'Keefe agreed from 9 News
if
at that press conference
Google
today.
weather
It's
says
obviously a big decision for the New
rain,
South Wales
any
Premier
chance
to
of
make.
rain, I
With
don't
this
want to
December
go
15 relaxation
because
of some of the
I
restrictions
don't want to
around
go
masks
in and waste my
QR
ticket
codes
if
and
it's
everything
going to
else.
start
But Jamie,
raining.
fingers crossed that
So
everything continues on the path that we've got at the moment, and hopefully you get to see your 2-year-old nephew, and I thank you for giving me a ring on this Monday morning. 131873, 2gb.com, 4bc.com.au, and you can text me as well, 0460 873 873. Vince from Yass says, g'day Mark, we've had our street Christmas parties for the last 8 years. We rotate around different houses each year. They're a big day, the kids love it. Santa turns up as well, handing out presents, and ours is this Saturday as well from Vince at Yass. Well, Vince, have a great street Christmas party, mate, and I'll be doing exactly the same. We better get to a break. It's 18 minutes past 11 past 10 in Queensland.
Build 2 homes on 1 block and maximum.
I'll just mute the commercial. So, hello everyone. I can't see who it is, but I just saw a message pop up. Yeah, so it's 11 past, what am I saying? It's 17 past 11 now. And I should be there in about 10 minutes. Let's go. So this is the Blacktown City area. This is the M7 motorway. So this motorway will take you all the way to Newcastle, the one that runs across. This area I'm in is called Huntingwood for Eastern Creek, and I'm headed towards, I'm not going to try and pronounce the park name, I keep forgetting the name of it, but it's in Blacktown, so I don't want to pronounce it wrong. Soon we'll be coming by Sydney Zoo, which is not in Sydney, it's in Blacktown. So there's Taronga Zoo and there's Sydney Zoo, the 2 main zoos, and then there's Dubbo Zoo, which is in the Western Plains Zoo, which is inland, quite inland.
See, learn, and discover. That's you to the power of us. To find out, visit
Commercial's still on. So yeah, so here on the left hand side, I think I can use this lane anyway. On the left hand side here is Sydney Zoo. So I'm going to come there and film soon. I've been once or twice and I love it. I'm thinking of getting a yearly pass, because I think it's so awesome. You can spend about, quite a few hours just watching the lions alone. Still commercials. And I don't know if you saw the sign, it says Featherdale Wildlife Park. There is a wildlife park around here as well. So this is Eastern Creek. And Featherdale is also an awesome park. It's a smaller one. And it's not really classified as a zoo, it's a wildlife park. So well kept, it's very good. Very high standard for the animals at all 4 zoos that I mentioned. The Taronga Zoo, the Dubbo Western Plains Zoo, the Sydney Zoo and Featherdale Wildlife Park.
Media has its perils. Just ask Nick O'Hines, who had to last week clarify he wasn't gay after he posted a photo of himself with a male friend on the internet. Well, 2GB's content manager Luke Davis...
This is called Bungaribbi Park, and this is not the park that I'm going to. one that I'm going to is very close.
Congratulations. Oh, Clinton. I think Clinton was on overnight over the weekend, so he can probably blame it on the fact that he was probably half asleep when he saw it. Anyway, for the past 24 hours, Luke and Laura have been forced to try and quell rumours it was actually their wedding, and they eloped. And Luke Davis, he's here in the studio with me. Luke, good morning. Good morning, Mark. Congratulations. I think I've made a terrible mistake. Clinton Maynard, congratulations. So how many people have been in touch with you to congratulate you on your nuptials?
Quite a few. We put up the photos last night, and it was a wonderful weekend full of love. And so, you know, I'll put up these beautiful photos of Laura and I, and put them up, went and had dinner, and went back to the computer later on and saw all these messages of congratulations. I said, Laura, I think we've got an issue here.
Well, you know what this means, Luke?
So along this road, it's 70 kilometres an hour. Now it's changing to 60.
Oh, hello, 5.5 years. Well, Laura started to put the pressure on you? Not at all. I think she wants to see what else is out there. Well, Laura, if you're listening, a very good morning to you, and congratulations. Well, at least that's what we'll be saying in, what, could we give it a month, 2 months?
Look, Laura will be listening, and I want to say this to her right now in front of you and all our listeners.
Oh,
Laura,
hang on a second. Hang on.
Laura, will you wait just a little bit longer?
Thank you, Luke. So there you have it, folks. Luke Davis, he is not engaged. He was simply at it was your friend's wedding, was it?
Yeah, that's right.
Who got married?
Adam and Ange, congratulations.
Congratulations to Adam and Ange, and congratulations to you too, Luke. And now I'm also getting messages through from Hansel. But as I'll say to Hansel, the same for you, Hansel and Ben. You two have been together for a little while, and I'm looking forward to some wedding invitations over the coming months. Good on you, Luke. Thank you. Thank you. That's Luke Davis, our content manager, and the pressure's also on other members of staff. Yes, that's you too, Hannah. And congratulations to Luke Davis. Wonderful news, isn't it? We celebrate all these things in the big family that is 2GB, 4BC, and network stations across Australia.
So here on the right hand side, you turn down to go to Featherdale Wildlife Park. It's kind of in area next to the train station and also near houses. So the one that I'm going to, I'm nearly here.
Hearing that the American poet, the Georgian poet, George Dawes Green, saying that this is where the whole thing of the moth came from. He said there was a culture in the rural South, the storytelling on the porch. That's what
suggested such an ambitious target they perhaps would have been doubted for good reason. Australians have banded together, supported each other and done the right thing to stop the spread and minimise the impact of COVID-19 on our health and our economy. And as a result, Australians stepping up and getting vaccinated to reach almost 90%. Australia is now reopening its international borders to vaccinated travellers as part of our step-by-step and safe reopening to the world. Fully vaccinated Australians, permanent residents and their families have been able to return home since the 1st of November. On the 21st of November, Australians welcomed back fully vaccinated Singaporean travellers. And from Wednesday this week, fully vaccinated international students, skilled migrants and refugee, humanitarian, temporary and provisional family visa holders will be able to travel to Australia without exemption. This is obviously music to my ears, particularly in my electorate Barker, where employers rely so heavily on migration to fill labour shortages. The strict border settings and travel restrictions have successfully shielded us from COVID-19, but they've also prevented many critical offshore workers from travelling to Australia. Critical skill shortages and workforce gaps have emerged, hampering Australia's economic recovery.
It's called Narrabeen Reserve.
There are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of vacant jobs in my electorate, and employers tearing their hair out,
Blacktown City Council.
having to cut shifts, scale back supply of goods and services as a result. Jobs in industries such as aged care, disability care, childcare, engineers, tradespeople, food processing chefs, and of course, agriculture. Unfortunately, the domestic workforce alone is not enough to address these skill shortages, and because of mobility and geographic mismatches amongst, of course, other factors. Targeted migration is needed to fill the critical skills and labour gap shortages. Migration programs are secondary sources of labour. Employers in my electorate and indeed throughout Australia take an Australia worker first policy before filling gaps with backpackers, seasonal workers, skilled migrants, otherwise all flown in from overseas. Last summer, a COVID-induced shortfall of well over 20,000 seasonal workers saw many growers in the horticultural sector turn off irrigation to crops, knowing full well they simply wouldn't have the workers needed to harvest their produce. Not only was that devastating for farmers, but threatened the entire supply chain. Without pickers, there's no need for truck drivers, wholesalers, and ultimately the decrease in supply pushed produce prices up at the checkout for consumers. Thankfully, for the Riverland in my electorate of Barker, one of the nation's horticultural hotbeds, the South Australian Government established a regional quarantine facility at Paringa, which enabled the arrival of seasonal and Pacific labour workers under the Seasonal Worker and Pacific Labour Scheme ahead of the 2021 citrus harvest. This initiative saw around 1,000 people enter the country and support the state's $277 million citrus industry to get the fruit off the tree and into our supermarkets. The horticultural sector was particularly vulnerable when international and domestic borders shut. So too were many other industries. The meat processing sector, the bumper grain harvest this year, the wool industry, regional hospitality and tourism businesses have all...
Okay, let's see how we go with doing this. I'm not sure if I might probably start a new stream. That might be an idea. I'll turn this one off, get this thing set up, and I'll just show you what I mean. Well, anyway, it's a gimbal, the one that I always use for walking. So what I'll do is I'll turn off this stream, I'll get myself set up, and then I'll film this beautiful park. And it doesn't look like it's gonna rain. It's not sunny or anything, but it's gonna be nice. Okay, so in a couple of minutes I'll start up again. Thanks to everyone who watched. A few people popped in. Thanks very much, everyone. Hello, everyone. Okay, we'll see you soon. Bye.